and welcome back to New You Wow Going Places podcast. I am Yvonne Nobles, founder of New You Wow, and I help entrepreneurs crush fear and anxiety with personalized power coaching. Today, we are honored to be joined by the lovely Joanna Jang. She is a Growth Accelerator business coach and innovation consultant that graduated at the top of her class from MIT. She's going to be sharing amazing insights with us today, particularly about how to succeed with her 90-day business intensive program and how even during the pandemic, she's helped business leaders become authentic and really lead in their fields by utilizing cutting-edge neuroscience and world-class business strategies. Joanna, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you feeling?
I'm doing so great, Yvonne. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. It's our honor, our privilege. And, by way of a little bit of an icebreaker, we always ask if you can share something with the audience today that most people do not know. Something about you that's a hidden gem.
Okay. Well, Okay, I do have one.
Aha.
So I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And that's like New York weather.
Oh.
And instead of Fahrenheit, we have Celsius.
Got it.
And I bicycle all year long, including 10 Celsius degree winters.
Amazing. That is dedication. How long have you been doing that?
5 years.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Okay. Well, do you think it's had a role to play in your success and in your adventures, trying things new?
It's definitely helped increase my productivity, like skyrocketed. And just even having oxygen into your body and your brain and having that refresh, the combination of focusing on work and then going for a bike ride.
Wonderful.
Physical activity.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we are curious, what actually led to your decision to pursue your current career? Why the change?
Okay. So this is my very first podcast interview. So it will.
You're doing amazing.
So I actually do background work. I'm an extra on film sets, and I still am doing that as I just started my business this year. And I do background work because I was starting to develop my own independent short films.
Wow.
So that was like my day job. But in 2018, we had a new provincial administration. And so they released rent control. And so rental market started to skyrocket in prices.
Uh-huh.
That's what led me to start pivoting. Like, what are the growth market sectors? Because I just can't afford to keep pursuing something and live in a very expensive city, which led me to get my first scholarship for MIT. And it led me to be invited to an accelerator program taught by venture capital firms at Technology Academy. So I started getting all this world-class business education. And when I graduated at MIT last February, that was amazing. And then the first shutdown happened in March. And so that was a very disruptive year.
Yeah, for everyone.
But at the end of last year, I discovered coaching. I didn't even know what that really was. But I was kind of coaching, like, you hear that a lot, that people who start coaching, they've kind of already been coaching without really calling it that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did this intensive coaching training program. And so now what I do is I provide coaching and consulting to help my clients thrive.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, it sounds like you took a challenge and you turned it into an opportunity. And because you've lived it, it's going to make it so much easier for you to help others understand they have the power to do the same. So that's great.
100%. Yeah, it's like, as a growth accelerator, you go first. Like, you have to conquer that mountain. You have to take uncomfortable steps,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just, you start to understand the terrain, and then you can be a guide for others going on that similar path. That's how I think.
Beautiful. No, fantastic. I always tell people I'm just your tour guide. But can you imagine following in the footsteps of someone who hadn't been on that path before? That's really scary. So I love the point you're making. You have to start with you. And, that's the little chat we were having before our segment started, that really we go first, but those experiences help us grow a larger heart and desire to help others and lift them. So keep up the great work. Now, on this journey of yours, have you had to encounter any speed bumps, any roadblocks that once you overcame those, you really felt that rush of success?
Yes. Actually, it's continual. So reading, I haven't even finished it, but reading Ryan Serhant's Getting Money Energy, he really shared that he just kept taking uncomfortable action.
Mm-hmm.
Went from sharing a bathroom with 17 people in Manhattan, New York,
Mm.
top real estate brokers in Manhattan, New York, and he attributes it to taking massive uncomfortable action continually. So that was a huge breakthrough for me.
Nice.
The amount of mindset shifts that I have to make. It's kind of like letting go of the baby teeth so that adult teeth can grow, so I can increase my capacity, so I can learn more skills proficiently.
Right. Right. No, I love the way you describe that. And we look at someone in their 50s with baby teeth a little oddly. So, it's like grow. And the thing, I guess, is everyone goes at a different pace. But inevitably, once you get to a certain point, you have to have gone past those hurdles. So what would you say has been a more pronounced speed bump that you overcame and that you felt really accomplished when you got past it?
Well, okay, so in September of 2018, when I was, facing an eviction, and then at the last minute found an affordable, nice place, which was a rarity. It was so uncomfortable for me financially, and for some reason I just checked this email from my union, my film ACTRA, which is a film union, and I've been an ACTRA member, a union member for years, but I was just more present. I was more urgent. My situation was more dire. I was, I guess, paying more attention.
Nice.
I actually read it, and I didn't even know this union for years was offering a scholarship.
Wow.
And so for me, that was like huge. At the time, I didn't notice it, but in hindsight, I'm like, if I didn't actually read that email, if I wasn't open to it, that was right in front of me, and I took on that opportunity, I identified it as a possibility, I wouldn't have been able to afford my postgraduate school program at MIT Online. All these other series of events wouldn't even have occurred.
Wow.
Open to opportunity and possibility, even when I don't have the solution for what I'm looking for. It's a huge breakthrough.
That is fantastic. I always use the comparison. It's like you never realize how many white cars are on the highway until you buy the white car. So it's almost like your awareness in that moment changed, and that shift caused you to see things that you could piece together, because everything's connected, right? So
I love that. And actually, there's actually a scientific term for that, and I've got to find it. But what's so interesting about that is once you have something very tangible that your brain can model, like a white vehicle, now you can and identify other white vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
You have a problem, you have a goal, and your brain doesn't have that solution yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's like the invitation to, some people call it have faith, expansive, be receptive for opportunity. In your presence, like being more present, you can show up, but you never know what can actually open doors for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes we are our own worst enemies when it comes to placing barriers and limits. So strip away the question marks and the doubt, throw that fear outside, and big things are waiting. I think especially even sometimes as women, we think, can I really do that? And when you switch that around from a question to a statement, I can do that. Like you said, huge things come.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you touched on the topic of being a woman because, I mean, I notice this even in my male clients, but I just think because culturally our society, just the oppression against women for eons, even really successful business women,
Mm-hmm.
they have their playing small. They don't
Mm-hmm.
assume that they're so like intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Still, they're still contorting their branches. And when we can unravel ourselves and expand from our authentic place, it's like a superpower,
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment, and where we even start to think differently and we're able to provide value in ways we couldn't even imagine possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I applaud you for pointing that out too. You have to change the way you think because everything else follows. So once you flip the switch in your mind, you start to feel different. You even start to breathe different. You see different, and then different things come your way. And it's funny because a lot of times we think, well, my life is a result of my circumstance. It's the things that happen to me that cause me to feel happy or sad or to feel brave or afraid. When it's like, no, it's how you're feeling that's going to shift the things that happen. So it's all which came first, the chicken or the egg, just embracing our power to know that if we think a certain way, things actually materialize. And it's a process. It's something that even when you grab onto it and you think you believe it, until you start seeing it, you question it. There's always going to be that little voice inside that's like, I don't know, should I do it? But, Joanna's saying it, I'm saying it, just do it. You're going to appreciate it. You'll thank us later.
What you're saying about like changing your thought and then it's your emotion. When you go to like a webinar or a show and you're getting pumped up and you're getting it's something external that's motivating you because you're experiencing their energy, their the mountain they've conquered, right? And so you're temporarily gaining their awesome sauce. And the gift, the trick, one of a growth hack trick tip is you think it, feel it, and then you got to take action. It has to change your behavior.
Yeah.
And when you change your behavior, that's when you change your environment. That's when you change your life and in your business.
Yeah.
And people, they don't get to the behavior change, the action part. And as we do this interview, we'll unpack that even more. But I love that you said it. Like, thank you for saying that. Like, you're on fire.
That's you. It makes me think of when you light the candlestick. You give a little of yourself, but the flame grows with it. So thank you so much. And to keep each other's flame going, I am very curious. The time that we live in, this pandemic, obviously it's forced people everywhere to face unprecedented levels of fear and anxiety. So what have you found to be effective means of coping? How have you stayed strong?
So, just a quick tip, like a growth hack tip,
Mm-hmm.
your audience can like just utilize it right away. Also, I've started a TikTok account where I don't actually show the instructions of exercises. I actually demo it, and I demo it in a fun, soothing,
Nice.
that people can just do it with me. So it's just even easier to do it in like 10 to 15 seconds.
Nice.
So I welcome anyone to follow my TikTok account at Joanna Jang Coach and just do the exercises with me.
Perfect.
one of the exercises is on my TikTok account, and it's called self-regulating nervous system.
Okay.
Take a deep breath and exhaling twice as long as the inhale.
Okay.
Move the body and the brain to get yourself back into the present and to interrupt that the mind ruminating and your mind just like skyrocketing to panic. There's a first tip that you can anyone can start right away, but to actually unpack it even further and to get into the science of that, this was a life changer for me when I was taught this in my coaching program. That our brain is made up of 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
The limbic part is like our reptilian brain, which is like even our ancestral survival of surviving from lions and tigers and bears, like for our physical like life.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the fight and flight. Our amygdala was the dominating for our sense of survival. Then there's the second part of the brain, which is the emotional part of the brain, our sense of connecting,
Mm-hmm.
Relationships, emotions. And the third part of the brain is the cognitive brain. There are actual neuroscientific terms of that too.
That's okay. You're painting the big picture and connecting.
But it's the cognitive brain that when you can access,
Mm-hmm.
where you know what it's like? The baby teeth are the limbic system, the lizard brain. That's like operating system version 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
And the cognitive brain is like the adult teeth, is like operating system 10.0.
Nice.
Process a lot more data, and you're able to process that. You have the capacity to process more data more effectively than what you can do with an operating system at 1.0.
Right. Right.
With that kind of relatively kind of tangible analogy. And so when you're in panic mode, scarcity, survival, if you can try to picture that that's your amygdala being hyperactive, when you do like breath work, try to calm yourself down, with putting oxygen back into the brain so that you can start accessing your cognitive brain.
Mm-hmm.
And for my personal journey, in hindsight, I realized that 5 years ago, I actually was able to access my cognitive brain more without realizing it. It wasn't like doing it, but by having more healthy, balanced hobbies like bicycling, by scheduling friends, by having balance, by reevaluating my values in life.
Nice.
It really helped me to access my cognitive brain, which skyrocketed my productivity. And not only did I get a scholarship, I was able to do full-time studies online at MIT while I was on a crew member of a Star Trek film set, working 14-hour days, 5 days a week.
Wow.
Honestly, I can't believe I was actually able to do that, but I biked there and back to set. I had that refresh, and my mindset was so much more clear. So there are these real growth hacks that you can implement in your habits that you can actually accelerate your growth without burning out, without getting sick. And so it's like, it's like an automatic vehicle, that energy combustion technology that it's leveraging that for our benefit as humans.
Very nice.
Life. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I love to, and sharing your experience, how you said 5 years ago, you stumbled upon this without realizing what you were doing, but the results speak for themselves. And, it's funny because my husband, he always thinks I'm silly. He'll pass by and I'm making faces in the mirror, or I'm doing stretches, or I'm breathing. And I'm doing these things because I'm like, I don't know what the name of it is, but I know I feel amazing whenever I do this. So whether I'm going into a big meeting or there's some opportunity and, the little bit of the stage fright or the doubt or whatever creeps in, because we're all human. That's a big message that we want to get out there today. We have our superpowers, but we all have our moments of weakness and frailty. It's what makes us a delicate flower. But you want to be able to tap into these things that Joanna's describing. And definitely, we're going to provide some information at the end here, how you can reach out to her, not only through the TikTok element, but also through Instagram and other means, so you can get more detailed information and hand-holding to start your journey and be a rock star. Because when you tap into these fuel elements, then you start realizing there is nothing you can't do. You just have to start. So very, very nice.
What you're riffing on what you just said, I've got 2 quick growth hacks for you and your audience.
Yes, please. Let's hear them.
Whenever you feel like, oh, should I, or I can't, or you've got an interview, or you're leading like a group meeting at work, you're feeling the nerve, go to the washroom, go into the toilet stall, lock it. This is actually from Harvard Business Review as well as Tony Robbins. It's putting your hands on your, it's like on your hips like this.
The power stance.
Yes, the power stance as well as like this.
Mm-hmm.
For a minute or two, and then you can make a strong self-affirmation. Just say it in your mind, say it out loud. I've actually designed this for my clients, and they, to this day, they continue to use it. So I referenced being a woman and being a tree, right? When you look at a tree, the branches are extending, right?
Yeah.
It's in carbon dioxide. A tree emits oxygen into the environment, and a tree is an ecosystem for bugs, insects, squirrels, birds, right? Like, look at how much value a tree provides, and the branches are just outward and expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And also men, so us women, when we've been raised in whatever ways contort and find ourselves, right? So I invite people to put yourself in your arms in contorted branch-like ways, in whatever way you're playing small in your life, and then physically, just a neurological physical activity as you extend your arms out like tree branches and moving towards expansion. Even if you don't know what you will look like when you're playing in your power, authentic power, by doing this, your brain will start to neuroplasticize that direction. It's a very powerful exercise.
Absolutely.
And I have it on my TikTok account, but it's just so simple to do. But when you picture that while you're doing a physiological action, it has a real immersive experience in the body and your belief system.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you said you had a second hack? Or that's the...
That was the second. So the first one was the power stance.
Power stance. Okay. And what I love about both of those, because you referenced Tony Robbins and the Harvard study, and clearly you've captured this and you live it. You're doing it to share it with others. But, I always jest, it's a different level when you don't even go to the bathroom. When you sit right there in your seat and you do it in front of everyone and you could care less what they're thinking because you know what's going to come of it, okay?
Fire, Yvonne. I love it. I love how you don't care. I was just for those. Look at Yvonne. Way to go. I love
it. Definitely, if you're doubting and you're like, they're going to think I'm bananas, baby steps. But you know that you've mastered it when you sit right in your chair and you jump up and you do the tree. Love it. Now, I thank you for that valuable advice. Now, we're curious on a personal level, who or what would you say are your top 3 sources of inspiration? And no wrong answers here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired by so many places. So at the time, 5 years ago, I had a very incredible human being, a man, that came into my life. And he was actually my father figure. He was more of a father figure to me than my actual, father by birth. And I'm not saying that to hurt my father by birth. It's just not everyone who's a parent is really equipped with the best skill sets to parent. And, he also, had a challenging childhood. But he has five grown, amazing children, amazing, loving marriage of, I think, over 30 years.
Wow.
He just took a chance on just coming under his wing. And I really think it's the kindness that
Yeah.
that's stabilizing, foundational, someone believing in you, and with like good intention. And he was actually probably my first coach in a way.
Oh.
And I think good parenting is good coaching,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really have that in that kind of safe relationship. So I would say he's my number one inspiration.
Nice.
I believe in God. I am religious. Faith is, I mean, so many times I pray, I prayed so much for years before I found my business schools and scholarship at MIT. Like, it's prayer. Like, I believe in miracles. Like, it's really a thing when you don't have the solution to your problem, and I believe in prayer. There's something really, I couldn't even articulate it. The evidence-based. It's like I'm such a scientist, but faith is. I don't even know how to articulate it, but I feel so much better, and I have seen miracles happen from that.
Beautiful.
Faith is such a huge part of my, my happiness, and my father figure, and also, I mean, I have I look up to so many world leaders. However, as I am aggressively scaling my business, I schedule my social time with my friends.
Nice.
When I was pursuing my film, I didn't do that. I had no work-life balance. I was prioritizing on, trying to get my film made. I still haven't gotten to my first indie film yet, but there's no expiry date on that, and it's going to be more of a professional hobby, which is fantastic. But I spend time with my friends every single week, no matter how busy I am with my business. So those are my three huge inspirations.
Oh, fantastic. And I'm going to address them in reverse. So the balance of spending time with friends and family, it's unfortunate, but in our society, it's almost taboo, to try to strive for that balance. But no one ever says on their deathbed, gee, I wish I would have worked longer and harder and missed out on more time with my friends and family. It's the reverse. So I applaud you, definite kudos for making sure that you keep that a priority. And then the element of prayer and your faith in God, again, so instrumental, so instrumental. The tree that you referenced earlier, if it chose not to think that something planted it in the ground in the first place, it wouldn't be here without that hand. So the fact that something higher has given us life and is looking out to make sure that what you need shows up right on time, it's mind-blowing. It's clear. So it's great that you can combine your love of science with your love of spirit. And, the fact too that you have that father figure show up. We all need strong mentors and people that inspire us, because when you have those moments of weakness or fear, if you can look up and look out and dwell on what they do, it provides the fire under you to not give up and to not look back, and definitely not to get immobilized thinking you can't go on. If they did it, you can do it. So like you said, having someone that believes in you, powerful. So really nice.
Thank you so much for reflecting back what I'm saying. And when you said it, something else came up that I feel so driven to say.
Sure.
My business mentors right now, they all have work-life balance. They're all married. They all have faith. Faith is so strong. They value their family and friendships as much as their magnificent businesses. So the one thing I actually could urge, to everyone is, that a sense of immersion, like who we hang out with influences us the most.
Yes.
That sounds so like I've heard it. I remember hearing it before. But yeah, but my friends are awesome, and I actually noticed that as I've been building my life and designing my business, some people in my life who are amazing people, amazing friends. But like, let's say those that they have success as an employee, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're starting out your own business, you're a business owner, and that's a lot of risk from an employee perspective, and they don't care on you. But I really made those decisions that I'm like, I know that you're coming from a good place, but I need to feed my little plants the seed. It's just so fragile and so it's like in the fetus, right?
Yeah.
Tremendous love. I kind of scale back on how much time I spend with them. And when I spend time with them, we focus on like, let's have a party, let's have a feast, let's talk about you. I don't share my, I protect my seed because I know until they see it, they're going to doubt it. Really, it's like an infestation in our society.
Yes.
And so it's so important for us to really incubate ourselves with role models that have conquered that mountain. And we're hearing their voices in our head, not all the doubt, because we have our own uncertainty. Our brain is wired to stay safe. And so any failure, it doesn't want, so basically it doesn't want us to grow.
Yeah.
Its job is to keep us alive, not happy. So we have to step in and manage those parts of our brain, advocate for our growth, for our happiness. So yeah, who we be careful, really take inventory of who are the people you're spending time with. How do they make you feel? Not the yesers. I don't mean I'll only be around those that say yes to me. If they say things that you need to hear, not want to hear, but if it's going to help you grow, that's great. But if they're more oh, this is not going to work. There's a big distinction between doubt and uncertainty.
Yes.
Challenging you to grow, big difference. And I think that's so important too. What do you do, Yvonne? Do you notice the people in your life?
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying run from the Debbie Downers. Amen. The thing is, what you're describing, it makes me think, how would you describe the color purple to a blind person?
Wow.
Because the thing with, I go back to a movie reference, I'm dating myself. I can't even think of what the film was, but I know that one of the characters was blind, and the friend was trying to describe red and blue. And immediately you think hot and cold. But purple is such a regal, noble color. How do you get someone who's never seen color to understand what it is? That's what it feels like when you try to get someone who is not quite ready to embrace the elements of what it takes to grow to success. You can talk till you're blue in the face, but it falls on deaf ears. So
alien language. Yeah.
The more that you, as you mentioned, surround yourselves with people who get it, who've started to open their eyes, even if it's just a little bit of an outline of a shadow, but they have the grasp. And together you can go on a journey to vividly see the light of day. That's worth having in your corner, because you're right. The people you're around are going to reinforce the voice that you have inside. So if it's those that are going to tell you you can't or you won't, all we have to do is look at the case studies of abusive parents and the result that it has on their children. And on the other hand, you take a little child who can't sing to save its life, but its parents tell them, God, you sound amazing. They are unstoppable. They are brave enough to jump in front of anyone and sing at a crescendo. But with enough practice, they can get there because someone believed in them. So when we're children, we don't necessarily get to pick that audience, but at our age, it is vital that we're surrounding ourselves with people that are going to help lift us. And then we have to pay it forward and make sure that we're doing that for others in our path. And that domino effect, it's just like fire. It's amazing.
It's a pleasure to pay for it. It's like rewarding to pay for it. No, 100%. I'm so aligned with everything you're saying, John. I do love it.
Well, I have to say, none of what I say is original. I am very spiritual as well. And there's a passage of scripture that says there's more happiness in giving than receiving. So, when we're born, there's this focus on me, me, me. A baby doesn't just stop and say to its mom, gee, you look tired. Why don't you take the night off? I'm okay. That's not what we're wired to do. But there comes a point when you go through life experiences and you reach maturity that you start looking to give. And when you give, you realize the more you give, the more you get. So your joy, your happiness, your power, your abundance, it's all going to be based on how much are you helping others. So again, that's why I applaud you and this new leaf that you've turned over. And I know the best is yet to come, because when you're striving to help others and to be bigger in yourself, well, only good things come of that. So very nice. Very nice. And I am curious too, which accomplishments are you most proud of? Which ones would you say so far have brought you the most joy?
Yeah. So for me, my paper at MIT, I titled it "Convergence Solutions for the Global Medical Services Sector," and I'm so proud of that because it really got notoriety with professors and with like large vendors in the space. I consider myself a serial entrepreneur.
Nice.
I want to build businesses that can bring in the cash flow and generate revenue so I can build out amazing projects.
Wow.
Another rewarding is just I've been able to help some of my clients who just didn't do any sales, never had their own business, and they were able to get to their first 10 paying clients within my program, and not only produce results like sales, but really be able to communicate better and become better leaders in their with their staff or their teams and their customers. But literally go from in front of me in our Zoom, just be so shy and just so resistant to a personal post on their Facebook to announce what they're doing they wouldn't do it. So now they're doing Facebook videos, and I'm
Great.
Just dislodge their really plain small beliefs, because with the one-on-one work, that's how you get that customization.
Yeah.
Unlock that, then they can just harpoon, and that's the power of coaching.
Yeah.
It's an incredible, such a valuable service to provide in this world. So beautiful. Wow. And what would you say, because with the different projects and ventures you're working on, you wear a lot of hats. So whenever you find yourself, when it feels like you're starting to run on empty, how do you reset? What do you do? I was just talking to someone this week about it. I call it the energy fuel tank. So I break up my day because I spend hours online, or servicing clients, or it's just literally hours every day. I'll do a waterfront bike trail, and then I'll do yoga in the park, and I'll still go for a walk.
Nice.
I'm breaking up the day to oxygenate my brain, and because when you keep that energy fuel tank high, that's a direct link to your self-motivation mental muscle.
Yeah.
When people feel loud and and they start backing, their self-motivation muscle is wah wah wah. So fuel tank, oxygenating the brain, refreshing, feeling inspired, feeling praying, spending time with your dog or your family. you do it multiple times in a day, intercepting your work.
Mhm.
It's a great like refresh. Um, that's a great way to do it. The other thing is robust strategy. So one of the things I teach my clients is how to measure your ROI.
Mhm.
Right? So you're moving your schedule around and you're prioritizing on the action steps that will move the needle forward in your business.
Nice.
And that strategy can change based on the phase of your business or where you're at, or just even your life responsibilities. So
Right.
that strategy in decision making is such a critical part. At MIT, they taught us how Thomas Edison systemized his product launch and his invention.
Nice.
The idea of the Growth Accelerator is to customize that for human growth. So I use like real sciences and I use it for the human mind. Really
Beautiful. I mean, that's fantastic. And to have that symbiosis of science and what you're living, that is beautiful because, there's another passage that says we are wonderfully made. So there's certain things about ourselves that science is still trying to figure out. But once they tap into that, it's a great resource to use. And I'm not a bicyclist because I have childhood trauma from running into parked cars. That's a story for another day. But I do embrace movement. Like you said, I recently splurged on a treadmill to bring in because of the pandemic. I felt so bad for my dear husband and the maintenance guy that struggled to get it in here. But that was part of my motivation. Everything they went through to get that thing in here, I got to use it. And it just so happened that my day job featured a challenge, a physical challenge for the month that I purchased it. And so where many others were taking an entire month to get there, I got there in about 2 weeks. It was walking a minimum of 50 miles, which again was unprecedented for me because I was a bit of a couch potato at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, wow, what you're describing, the oxygenation, your body movement, all those things were unlocking these ideas. And then I did what you said, and it wasn't about keeping it in here. I was like, okay, it's a thought, but thoughts are just things that need to grow. So I said, how do I make it happen? So there's certain elements I started doing. And if you would have asked me a year ago, some of these personal obstacles or challenges, if I would have taken them on, no way. But suddenly there was that fuel that you described. There was that fire lit. And I was like, well, if I did this, what else can I do? And that is really living when you push yourself outside your comfort zone and you surprise yourself. And when you see it for yourself, you realize, well, how many other people can I help? Is it someone in my family? Is it a stranger? Is it a child? Is it an elderly person? Who can you help feel better than when they first crossed your path? And then you feel better for it. So it's beautiful.
Yvonne, like, thank you so much for sharing this. And it's so weird because if someone tells you that, it's like, no way. You start to tell that action system that you're going to type it. It's like, it sounds so simple,
Mm-hmm.
so effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Up level some of those methods is exercising first thing in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, it's like do exercise any day, any time of the day. If you do like the first one first thing in the morning, it's like skyrocketing your energy. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Which was a big adjustment for me because I'm a night owl. And growing up in my teens, my brothers would tease me because I was working out, and doing everything, but always at night. And then as age started catching up, I thought, let me give this morning thing a try. And Joanna, you're absolutely right that it changes things because now it's as if your brain is aware that you've set your day up with success from the beginning. And also, you don't have to beat yourself up with, am I going to get to it later? Am I going to be too tired? Is something else going to come up in my schedule that's going to conflict? You already did it. So it's like you already gave yourself that push.
Yeah, no, and I just got an insight from what you just said. You know what? When we exercise, especially first thing in the morning, we're actually feeding our brain oxygen. So our brain can feed us with new ideas.
Yep.
I just had that correlation and you just said it. And it sounds so simple, but there's like an attendance to our life.
Yeah.
That then sets up the day. Like it like fuels our entire day. So that's amazing to hear that you did that. You got the treadmill and you did that challenge. And then all of a sudden you start to take massive action that you normally would never have done before.
Nope. So it felt great. It felt great. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Same for you. In fact, curious, speaking of the brain connection to activity, would you say that once you started your bicycling and your focus, that your dreams have become more vivid?
My sleeping dreams. Actually, interestingly enough, I feel like my dreams, I don't really notice them.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like the level of clear-minded, and also it's not so much that I don't have still the negative, voices nudging, and it's just really like a different relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they're just coming from a place of survival, like safety, self-preservation.
Right.
Listen to them as much, and I could just calm them down. And whereas like they had so much more power over me, and so I would stay small.
Got it.
The biggest pivot was like because I had more oxygen in my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like when you bicycle, it feels so phenomenal. Like you just like
endorphins plus.
If you go on bike trails, like in my TikTok, I actually purposely do POV shots of these phenomenal bike trails that I'm on.
Nice.
If you look at that, how can you not be inspired?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're like, let's go. Let's do it. Pumped.
That's fantastic. And the dream component for me, maybe it's because there was more movement and I wasn't just stagnant all the time, that then it's almost like my brain was so fired that even in sleep, it's solving problems, it's thinking through. So I'm going to put that bug in your ear. And for all listeners today too, pay attention to your dreams, especially once you put more activity in your life, your brain is going to just stay alive and vibrant. And there's things that, because it's always symbols and signs, and so it can be kind of confusing, like, what the heck was that? I think I saw a study at the beginning of the pandemic that dreams were more frequent, more vivid. Some of it, they said, was attributed to more TV watching, but it's also a matter of that oxygen element that you're saying, just being more alive and, putting your fears at bay to see what it comes up with when you're not trying, when you let go. 2 more questions for you. Oh, you had something you're going to say?
Fascinated. Oddly enough, I don't notice a difference in my dreams. However, I actually also meditate every day.
Okay.
I noticed that the second half of my meditation, but Yvonne, I kid you not, I will literally have a step-by-step workflow of like a week's worth of content, or like my first guest speaking engagement at a virtual summit. And it's like I immediately write it down because I don't have these skill sets. Well, my brain is just giving me, it's just downloading something.
Yep.
I write it down, and if I don't write it down, my normal me, my current self, doesn't have those skill sets. I was like, oh, what was it that I said?
Yeah.
All those words, just because I'm not there, my skill set is not there yet. But when I meditate, and I just like my brain just has those moments of clarity, I'll write it down, and then I'll read it back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this was so like, wow, this was so clear and concise and organized. Like I'm not for me to actually be able to articulate my thoughts because I'm not used to being a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, oh wow, I'm doing this to grow my business, right? But we're not used to this. So the brain is like, what are you doing? Like, what is this activity, right? But I noticed, like, not in my dreams, but what you just said, I'm like, oh, you know what? It happens all the time now in my meditation.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that's us getting out of our own way again, because, with dreams, for example, for me, I know that if I don't lock in, as soon as I wake up, it's gone. There's no way I'm going to recall it later in the day. So keep a journal, and jot it down. So much like you said, with your exercises, you're writing it down because you need that to refer back to when you're not in a state where it comes so easily. But yeah, the beautiful elements again of we literally will surprise ourselves if we just do it. You know, you just got to start. So I'm wondering for yourself, what is your opinion, your calling? Do you choose it or does it choose you? What do you think?
So funny. Like one of my coaching programs is called Answer the Call.
Huh.
Because I kid you not, I hear my clients say it like like they're answering something on them. Like they have to do this thing. This has become their life mission, their life purpose. And I feel, I think it's both, Yvonne.
Okay.
I think that, and especially with faith.
Yeah.
The prayer, prayer in a group setting. So powerful of an experience that you're one yourself and you're part of a community.
True.
And that community, like, not asks of you, but it's like there's something in you that believes that you could contribute to the community. And that's what I call like the calling. Like I don't know how else to articulate it in my head. In all of my business mentors, I see it then. I hear it in all of their choices of words. Like, of course, they love what they do and they have a passion and they're making that money for their family, right? But there's something more. They're doing it for their community. They're doing it for their tribe. They're answering a call. Yeah. What about you, Yvonne? What do you think?
Agreed. You know, it's one of those things I always ask questions, even when I'm just having conversations with friends, and they'll say, well, what do you think? And I'm very much like your answer. I'm like, well, it's both. Because it's one of those things where it's hard to definitively say one or the other because you can see how they play off each other. So that component of everyone has a gift, you know? So on a simple term, for some it could be singing, others is artistry, you know, fashion, music, whatever that gift is. Some are blessed to find it when they're young, and others kind of stumble upon it by accident later in life when they try something new. So I do think it's key to always have yourself open to new experiences. But at the end of the day, even when it speaks to you, you have to listen. You have to respond. And that's where it's a matter of you choosing which calling to follow. So I think it's great that you know your strengths and you're capitalizing on those and you're helping others in your community, because that's definitely something that we applaud and celebrate at New You Well. And for this last question, it's very hypothetical, but again, no wrong answer. Let's imagine that we have a time machine and you hopped in and you went back 20 years. What are you saying to younger Joanna? You only have 2 minutes to tell yourself something that's going to help you over the next 20 years. What are you saying?
Okay, I love this. So in my coaching training program, one of my teachers, Annie Lola, talked about the caterpillar identity. And for me, it was like my caterpillar existence is also the squirrel, like scrounging for nuts, trying to survive another winter, like little, small, tiny, and there's so much love. Little squirrel, you know, like imagine, like, not all the world, all the nuts in the world, but like even so much more.
Beautiful. No, I think that's beautiful to tell yourself to just all those experiences. I mean, treasure them up. Yeah, that's great. And
talking about gifts, like, where they're singing or whatever, I also think gifts that we have is also the journey we've been on, and the roads we've conquered.
Yes.
Wisdom and expertise we've gathered and earned.
Yeah.
That's a huge gift to give back to those who are at the start or middle of their journey to help. So I think that's also the entire knowledge knowledge economy. Like, that's the entire sort of at its core, is that our journeys are our gifts that we can give back to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that's when you can say that you've lived the best life ever, when you've striven to celebrate every little success of your own, but then share that with others and make them larger. And, the real intent of that last question is to give us the advice that we need for the next 20 years. Because if you would have said it then you're saying it to yourself now. So continue to gather all that you can, to be amazing, to share, to be inquisitive, and to discover, because I am so certain that you have amazing, brilliant things ahead of you. And, we are curious if anyone in the audience wants to reach out and continue the conversation with you. How do they get hold of you? What's the best way?
Yeah, just message me, direct DM me on my Instagram account at Joanna
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, again, we thank all our listeners for joining us today. We hope that we've touched you and inspired you in some way to go out there and live the best life ever. If you have someone in your circle, let them know how much you love them. Don't let a day pass without it, because you don't want to take a moment for granted. And Joanna, you have been lovely. We thank you for gracing us with your presence, and we look forward to hearing amazing things for you coming, okay?
So much.
Absolutely. Wishing everyone love and safety. Till next time.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to share this video and like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NewYouWell. Until next time, stand tall in your power, and remember, your belief in yourself is your superpower.